Happy Monday. We're almost to spring break. One more month to go. We are 92 days accident free. So kudos to you guys. Keep it up. In the news, they're both very recent. Last Friday, Campbell County, Virginia, 2 buses collided with each other, injuring 10 kids and 2 adults. They have not yet released what the cause of the accident was. And then this morning, a bus collided with a tree in Westmont. Obviously, that's very recent. There's no details on that one other than there were no students aboard the bus.
How fast was the tree going?
You know those trees, they pop up out of nowhere. They probably just decided to cross the street. February is Love the Bus Month.
Bluebird.
Thank God for all you guys do. And remember that Thursday, we are doing the chili soup cook-off. So if you guys haven't signed up and want to participate, please do so. The March important dates. Kendall will start sending those out in the email nightly. Remember that Monday, February 17th is President's Day. It's a paid holiday for you guys if you qualify for IMRF. And no schools are running that day. Whether your school calendar says you're in session or not, that is a district closed day. February 28th is the Kane County Institute, it's a Teacher Institute Day. So pay attention to your calendars. Most of the school districts are off, but that doesn't mean the private placement companies are closed. Yes, we do have an early release February 27th, the day before. We are currently short 4 drivers and 1 monitor. So every day we are using half of our subs just to cover open routes. So please do not take offense when you call in sick and Kelly says, is there any way you can come in this morning? It is nothing personal. If you're sick and feel like crap, we're not trying to force you to come into work. We're just asking if there's any possible way. If not, then you continue with your sick day. I'm not going to tell you not to take sick time. But she's going to ask, especially if we're hurting and all the subs are already out.
What about that spray we used to use during,
Yeah, like they used to bomb the
when we get
buses.
to this time of the year, I mean, everybody and their brother is sick.
So
Everybody.
the disinfectant bombs, what we have left is all we have. That was discontinued. That stuff,
Yeah.
they have not bought that since the COVID stuff ended. We have a disinfectant spray that we can get from them, but it's not the same thing. They kind of used what they had left over, and once they ran out, that was it for that spray. But usually if somebody calls out sick, we do go out and disinfect the bus. Just a reminder, everybody when they were hired on agreed to do field trips every week. Randy's having to assign the subs anywhere from 5 to 8 field trips. There's a really easy one for high school drivers. That's doing the bowling runs back and forth from St. Charles Bowling Alley to the high schools, right down the road. But nobody ever signs up for it. Kelly, you got anything for the group? You got anything for the group?
No.
All right, then I'm going to turn it over to Brandy.
Sorry, Celeste.
Hi everyone. Gosh, I wish I could dance, but I can't and you really don't want me to. So instead, I thought I would talk a little today about how people think. I'm fascinated by this question. I'm a social psychologist, which basically means I'm a professional people watcher. So this is what I do. I try to figure out how humans think and how we might be able to think better. And here's something I noticed a few years ago about how I seem to think. Here's a typical week in my life, which usually seems to revolve entirely around publishing papers. So here I am in the maximum of my artistic abilities as a stick figure, going along at baseline, and a paper gets accepted. I get this rush, this blitz of happiness, and then I'm back to baseline by about lunchtime. A few days later, a paper might get rejected, and that feels pretty awful. And I wait for that blip to end, but somehow I just can't stop thinking about it. And here's the craziest part. Even if another paper gets accepted the next day, well, that's nice, but somehow I can't get that pesky rejection out of my head. So what is going on here? Why does a failure seem to stick in our minds so much longer than a success? Well, together with my colleague Amber Boydston in the political science department, I started thinking about this question of do our minds get stuck in the negative? We all know intuitively that there are different ways of thinking about things. The same glass, the saying goes, can be seen as half full or half empty. And there's a lot of research in the social sciences showing that depending on how you describe the glass to people, as half full or half empty, it changes how they feel about it. So if you describe the glass as half full, this is called a gain brain because you're focusing on what's gained, then people like it. But if you describe the same glass as half empty, a lost brain, then people don't like it. But we wondered, what happens when you try to switch from thinking about it one way to thinking about it another way? Can people shift back and forth, or do we get stuck in one way of thinking about it? Does one of these labels, in other words, tend to stick more in the mind? Well, to investigate this question, we conducted a simple experiment. We told participants in our experiment about a new surgical procedure, and we randomly assigned them to one of two conditions. For participants in the first condition, the first group, we described the surgical procedure in terms of gains. We said it had a 70% success rate. And for participants in the second group, we described the procedure in terms of losses. We said it had a 30% failure rate. So it's the exact same procedure. We're just focusing people's attention on the part of the glass that's full or the part of the glass that's empty. Perhaps unsurprisingly, people like the procedure when it's described as having a 70% success rate, and they don't like it when it's described as having a 30% failure rate. But then we added a twist. We told participants in the first group, you could think of this as a 30% failure rate. And now they don't like it anymore. They've changed their minds. And we told participants in the second group, you could think of this as a 70% success rate, but unlike the first group, they stuck with their initial opinion. They seem to be stuck in the initial loss that they saw at the beginning of the study. We conducted another experiment. This time we told participants about the current governor of an important state who was running for re-election against his opponent. We again had two groups of participants, and we described the current governor's track record to them in one of two ways. We said that when the current governor took office, statewide budget cuts were expected to affect about 10,000 jobs. And then half the participants read that under the current governor's leadership, 40% of these jobs have been saved. And they like the current governor. They think he's doing a great job. The rest of the participants read that under the current governor's leadership, 60% of these jobs have been lost. And they don't like the current governor. They think he's doing a terrible job. But then, once more, we added a twist. For participants in the first group, we reframed the information in terms of losses. And now they don't like the current governor anymore. And for participants in the second group, we reframed the information in terms of gains. But just like in the first study, this didn't seem to matter. People in this group still didn't like the current governor. So notice what this means. Once the loss frame gets in there, it sticks. People can't go back to thinking about jobs saved once they thought about jobs lost. So in both of these scenarios, actually, the current governor gets ousted in favor of his opponent. Well, at this point, we were getting curious. Why does this happen? Could it be that it's actually mentally harder for people to convert from losses to gains than it is for them to go from gains to losses? So we conducted a third study to test how easily people can convert from one thing to another. This time, we told participants, imagine there's been an outbreak of an unusual disease and 600 lives are at stake. And we asked participants in one group, if 100 lives are saved, how many will be lost? And we asked participants in the other group, if 100 lives are lost, how many will be saved? So everyone just has to calculate 600 minus 100 and come up with the answer of 500. But whereas people in one group have to convert from gains to losses in order to do that, people in the second group have to convert from losses to gains. We timed how long it took them to solve this simple math problem. And what we found was that when people had to convert from gains to losses, they could solve the problem quite quickly. It took them about 7 seconds on average. But when they had to convert from losses to gains, well, now it took them far longer, almost 11 seconds. So this suggests that once we think about something as a loss, that way of thinking about it tends to stick in our heads and to resist our attempts to change it. What I take away from this research and from related research is that our view of the world has a fundamental tendency to tilt toward the negative. It's pretty easy to go from good to bad, but far harder to shift from bad to good. We literally have to work harder to see the upside of things. And this matters, so think about the economy. Here's economic well-being from 2007 to 2010. And you can see it tanked, just like we all remember, and then by late 2010, it had recovered by most objective measures. But here's consumer confidence over the same time period. You can see it tanks right along with the economy, but then it seems to get stuck. Instead of rebounding with the economy itself, consumers seem to be psychologically stuck back there in the recession. So oddly then, it may take more effort to change our minds about how the economy is doing than to change the economy itself. On a more personal level, what this research means to me is that you have to work to see the upside. Literally, this takes work. This takes effort. And you can practice this. You can train your mind to do this better. There's research out of UC Davis showing that just writing for a few minutes each day about things that you're grateful for can dramatically boost your happiness and well-being and even your health. We can also rehearse good news and share it with others. We tend to think, right, that misery loves company, that venting will help get rid of our negative emotions, that we'll feel better if we just talk about how terrible our day was. And so we talk, and we talk, and we talk about the boss who's driving us crazy, and the friend who never called us back, and the meeting at work where every little thing that could go wrong did. But we forget to talk about the good stuff. And yet that's exactly where our minds need the most practice. So my husband, who has this disconcerting habit of listening to what I say other people should do, and then pointing out that, technically speaking, I'm a person too, has taken to listening to me for about 2 minutes on days when I come home all grumpy and complaining about everything. And he listens, and he says, okay, but what happened today that was good? And so I tell him about the student who came up to me after class with this really interesting, insightful question. And I tell him about the friend who emailed me out of the blue this morning just to say hello. And somewhere in the telling, I start to smile. And I start to think that maybe my day was pretty decent after all. I think we can also work in our communities to focus on the upside. We can be more aware that bad tends to stick. One mean comment can stick with somebody all day, all week even. And bad tends to propagate itself, right? Somebody snaps at you and you snap back, and you snap at the next guy too. But what if the next time somebody snapped at you, you forgave them? What if the next time you had a really grumpy waitress, you left her an extra large tip? Our minds may be built to look for negative information and to hold on to it. But we can also retrain our minds if we put some effort into it and start to see that the glass may be a little more full than we initially thought. Thank you.
We're all wrong. That sounds very negative.
It only takes one person to start the trend, and then it keeps going. It could be anything about getting a new student and having to change your route. It's about somebody else getting upset because somebody called off of work and now we have to rearrange everything that we just spent the night before fixing. It could be about your bus not working and we keep trying to fix it. All the negativities are building up, and in the last couple of weeks, I felt in my personally, everything is just building one after the other. I can say that I focus a lot on the negativity and I try to redo it in my brain and fix it, and it was just one thing after another. I can honestly say that I probably reacted different ways that I shouldn't have in the last couple of weeks, but again, it was just that one extra thing that happened, and so I kept building. So if we keep building on the negativity, we're not gonna be able to get out of that rut to bring back the positivity. So not everybody would like an extra student on their bus. You know, the behaviors are they gonna mess with the other students? You know, go in a different direction, are we gonna add more time? Am I gonna make it to my next route? And I get that we're always pushing time, be on time and everything, but at the same time, it's basically just trying to get those kids to school on time. I mean, it's easy enough for us to call the school and say you're gonna be late than complaining that, you know, gonna get another student on my bus. So we gotta try to turn it around and try to think more positively, and try to change ways that we can think more positively, and that's all of us. Office staff, mechanics, drivers, monitors, everybody. Again, just trying to work towards being more positive versus all the negativity to build up. Part of being positive is your attitude is everything. So we all have our personal issues and everything. We all have our own issues with our own work staff and our co-workers, but being able to balance that out and get through the day, again, your attitude is everything. Communication, the way we communicate with each other. Something was very simple spoken to me, and I probably could have accepted it exactly for what it was, but because it was right after something else negative, I took it the wrong way. My reaction to that was wrong. But again, it's just kind of the way you come across to somebody, it could be a difference. Okay, so communicating in a more positive direction versus a more negative. Your behavior, your punctuality, being punctual to work, being on time to work so that your students are then on time to go to school. Not having to have somebody else change the route time to make somebody else drive the route, and again, punctuality, being on time, and that's just not being on time to, you know, do your pre-trip and run out of here. But if you know that you're gonna, you go to the bathroom, you gotta put your stuff away, you gotta get to the bus, you're adding in your own time. But being punctual so that you're on time for your routes is the best thing, because then you're not rushing in your head. You're not rushing, you're not, you know, increasing your anxiety, you know, am I gonna make it? But you being punctual, on time, maybe, sorry. Your appearance, it may be silly, but if you look at yourself in the mirror and you like how you look and you are dressing to, not to impress, but again, if you're dressing the way your attitude is, then again, you're gonna feel better about yourself, okay? And then also respecting yourself, respecting your others, your coworkers, your supervisors. But this all includes like being a professional driver. All right, I'm not gonna do this. But I do have one more video and then talk about that one. And this is more about the driver. It's not. Of course it's there.
Well, you know what? I'm almost 18. Why can't you just let me do what I want? You know what? I don't care how old you are. You live under my roof. This is my house. I pay your bills. I take care of you. You need to do what I say. I've been calling you, and I can't believe that you did not. That you never call me back. Well, you know what? I really don't care. I can do whatever I want. I'm almost 18. And you know what? Since you do pay the bills, I'm just gonna live with Dad. I'm so tired of this.
Yesterday afternoon, I tried to catch you before you went home. Not sure what you got going on, but your windows are down, your house is a mess.
I did sweep. My wife's
Sweeping into the step well is not really constantly sweeping it.
You know, you're right. You're right. Morning, Jennifer. Did you guys go to your grandma's? Yes. Oh, good. Good morning. You're going on really nice shoes today. Thank you. Just saying. Good morning. I'm already answering your phone. I've been worried. You were supposed to be home at 9 o'clock last night.
Does the example we have just illustrated look familiar to you? All of us have personal issues like these. These types of issues have the potential to affect job performance. In this example, the driver was upset, her daughter was disrespecting her, she was running late for work, and her supervisor got on her case for not completing her post-trip inspection. That makes for a terrible start to the day. However, the driver could put her personal issues aside and greeted students in the morning with a positive attitude and a friendly smile. This video is going to explore how driver conduct plays a major role in the safety of the students you are transporting. Our purpose of this video is to introduce new drivers and remind veteran drivers that they are indeed professionals of their occupation. We want to make clear that it's a big deal how you dress, act, and present yourself to your students, their parents, and the public. This video will be divided up into 3 important sections.
It's actually not done, we're all done with the video. So, expected of a school bus driver is being dependable, being able to emotionally stable to carry out your work duties and patiently deal with students, parents, school officials, and the public. Being good representatives for your school district. Keep your interest in the welfare of your students. And then being patient, understanding, and free of alcohol and drugs. We want to strive to treat all people with a courteous and professional manner. We want to strive to develop good working relationships with all Geneva staff, whether it be drivers, monitors, coaches, administrators over at the schools, and then also the office staff. We want good, positive public relations, depends on the attitude you bring to work every day. So when we're going on field trips over the weekend, the way you guys are driving your bus and the way you guys carry yourselves at those field trips. Again, our logos are on those buses. And then being a listener, listening to your supervisors and your fellow employees. Our supervisors and us, we are just following the policies that were given to us, and we're just enforcing them. And then communicating often with the supervisors if there's any problems or issues, so we can work towards a better, more positive work environment. We want to remember that we are part of a team. We want to work together. We're not trying to work against each other. And then also your personal appearance. Again, I said rest. If we rest, we take care of ourselves. The way you dress to go to work in the morning, it just makes you feel better about yourselves. But again, I'm just trying to work towards more positive team working environment, so there's not so much negativity. There's many times we walk in here, and I think within 30 seconds, there's negativity in everywhere. So again, if we can just work towards working together, being more positive, and if you want to see change, we just got to talk and communicate so we can actually work towards a change for the better. Okay? Very short meeting today.
That sounds very negative.
I can say sit here and talk longer if you want. So, any questions, anything that you want to bring up, anything you want to talk about?
Well, this keeps my good attitude.
Any questions, comments?
Can we talk about the diagonal at high school?
Okay,
When you pull in, you need to pull all the way up the foot. If you're
Okay.
the first one in line.
right.
Because
Well, I think it's at any school, you should be pulling all the way up so that you're first in line.
Yeah, some people are pulling up like halfway and then the buses behind them are can't get in.
And we're hanging out on the street filled with students.
Okay, so again, so if you're listening to your other coworkers say, I'm not there, so again, I would have known that, so they're telling you right now, I think I heard it over the radio this morning, if you are the first one in the diagonal, pull all the way up, so allowing everybody else behind you to pull in after you, so that we're not hanging out in the streets.
The other part of that too, though, is some people are, you gotta read the traffic.
Right.
Because when you do your safety check, if you got a lot of buses coming behind you, then just go around the block and do your safety check. Get out of the way.
Don't shut the buses off.
Right, especially the
Especially the
bluebirds.
propane, they take too long to
Don't.
move up.
Okay?
It's
Just
about
walk to
thinking
the
about
back
your
and walk.
activities.
Yep. Listen to your coworkers, again, I'm not there, so again, if this is what's going on, listen to them. They're just advising you to move, pardon? Okay. So again, we're just looking to move positive, okay, if you're moving all the way up, if you wanna do your child check, you can go around the block, go somewhere else so that everybody else can drop them and move to the next route. Not all of us have only one or two, some of us have the 3 tiers, so we have to keep going. Any other schools that we have comments for, or any other suggestions?